So this is our front bodice that we're working with. And this is our scrap of paper that we're going to make our bandeau pattern on. I'm gonna use a pink marker so you guys can see it. This row of symbols, I'm going to put the half inch mark of my ruler on it and draw a straight line. So the horizontal lines to where you're standing, put the whatever line on your marker you decide, on your ruler you decide to put on there for your straight line, and draw. Okay. I'm gonna pull out my new marker because this one seems to be going out. Alright, so now you use that guideline to put the pattern on there. Take your weight, put it on there, and make sure that you don't cover up the apex punch so that you can mark in there. And I don't need to trace the whole bodice pattern because we only need this section for the bandeau pattern. So I'm just gonna trace, I'll trace this area just so you guys don't get confused and can see what it is I'm doing in regard to the pattern. So typically when you're making your pattern, the radius for the bust is 3 inches all around. So that's a 6-inch diameter and a 3-inch radius all around the circle. We don't need to draw the whole circle, so I'm just going to draw 3 inches up, 3 inches down, because that's what we need for our pattern. Make sure that your line is straight. So we're gonna mark 3 inches up, just slightly, because this is a thicker marker. And also 3 inches below the apex. Just a light mark. Okay. So the bandeau pattern requires that the neckline of the pattern is a quarter of an inch above and below the 3-inch radius for the bust. And draw a line. Then we'll also do that for the 3-inch mark below the apex. And how you use your L marker is make one side parallel against the center front or whatever line you are trying to draw a line perpendicular to, and make sure that it's straight up against that line so that you can draw the line straight and accurate in a perpendicular. Or the pattern book does call for going in 1/2 inch here and then drawing a line straight down perpendicular to this one like this, and then from that line at the top and the bottom going in 1 inch and curving it towards this line. But as you can see, the apex on this pattern is here, and this line is not 3 inches away, so I don't think that would be enough bust coverage. So instead, what I'm gonna do is leave this line here, and I'm gonna draw my perpendicular line here and just leave it where it is up here. Hopefully I don't confuse you with all the colors at this point. So I'm gonna draw my line here, and then the 1 inch that they wanted to go inside from the line that would have been here, I'm gonna go 1 inch towards the side seam and curve to this line, and I think that would be enough bust coverage here. Remember, this line is 1 inch from this one. We'll just go back in and bring the blue top line over to avoid any confusion. Okay, so now I'm gonna, let me see, make sure. Yeah. So now I'm going to go in 1/2 inch on each side. Then take the hip curve ruler So look, our green mark here is about between 3 inches and 3 1/8 inches. And we'll take it all the way down to where the hip curve touches this green line, which is at 5 1/2. So we'll just go like this. And we're just remembering those numbers for when we do it at the bottom here. So again, between 3 inches and 3 1/8 inches, all the way to the hip curve, coming back to the green line at about 5 1/2. Okay, now we're gonna add our seam allowance. Okay, so I'm gonna use purple to draw the seam allowance, and then we'll cut it out. So it doesn't look like there's gonna be enough right here for the seam allowance, so I'm gonna cut a little piece of paper off here and put it in there, and tape that on. You'll see what I mean in a second if you're confused. That piece of paper is just so that there's enough paper to draw the seam allowance. So at the top and bottom, you draw enough for a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and on the side, the book says to draw 1/2 inch for the fold over for the casing for the neck strap, but I'm gonna draw 3/4. I'm gonna draw 3/4 of an inch on the side and 3/8 of an inch on the top and the bottom. And we'll leave the center front line alone because that will be on the fold typically. But for mine, I'm gonna fold it over for a casing for something cool. And then you can add 1/2 inch seam allowance on the side seam of the bandeau bra, or you can add 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna do 3/4 of an inch. And let's go ahead and draw that out some more so it goes all the way over there. And then you can add 1/2 inch seam allowance on the side seam of the bandeau bra, or you can add 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna do 3/4 of an inch. And let's go ahead and draw that out some more so it goes all the way over there. ball. So first we're gonna cut off this at the center front. All that, it doesn't matter. Then we're gonna cut the top, the extra paper from the top. Remember our purple line was the most recent drawn line. So that's the line we're cutting on. Moving on to the side seam. And the bottom. So just tape this extra paper here. Tape it on there. Extend this line right here. Extend the edge of where it is right now. It doesn't have to be that long. I'm just doing, I just made it that long to make sure there was enough. Then fold it on the seam allowance. And cut at the bottom of, or the top right now of the pattern. Cut all that off. Unfold it, and you see now you just cut the rest of the extra off. Turn it around and tape that so it doesn't come off. A little extra piece. Okay. Again, so that is so that when you fold over the casing, it comes all the way to the top and to the bottom instead of stopping short. Doesn't look as neat. Okay, I say that as there are 5 different marker colors on my pattern, but that's okay. And the neck strap for this is just 1. The book says 1 inch. Now this is without seam allowance. So 1 inch by 60 inches. I think 70 inches in length might be a more comfortable length to play around with. 60 inches might be short. So, and again, they say 1 inch by 60 inches. So for seam allowance on the neck strap, if you're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, then you would need to add an extra 1/2 inch to that 1 inch for the seam allowance, as in the 1/2 inch is a 1/4 inch on each side.